All right, I want to do a comment on the Wilder and Gypsy King fight. I already knew off the top that the Gypsy King was gonna win because he's naturally skilled. When a person is naturally skilled at fighting, they really don't need to train as much as a person who fight like Wilder, which Wilder can't fight. He's never been a great fighter. And you know all this love. He had to change his camp because he loved it. Like the old dude said, it's excuses. He's always been a terrible fighter. Always. He fights like it's like looking at comic books. Wilder fights like his name, and Tyson fights like his name. Wilder fights wild. Tyson fight like Tyson, but more fluent because he heavy and he fight like a lightweight. When you can fight, you don't really have to put your hands up like most people do. It's because you have a unique ability to kind of feel the fight. It's not you learning techniques to follow. It's how you naturally fight. And some people are just naturally gifted at fighting. And that's how the Gypsy King is. I already knew he was gonna win the fight. I actually said how the fight was gonna go all the way to I knew they both was gonna make it all the way close to the last round. I thought it was gonna go to the last round, but I was a little off. But I knew it all came down to Wilder throwing one of those freak punches and catching what's the name. But I'm gonna tell you how I knew that it wasn't gonna happen. But the only reason why I was kind of like iffy is because it could have been a trick. Wilder could have been faking like he was tired and wasn't really tired. It could have been a training ploy to get Fury to come in. So that's the only thing that kind of threw me off. I didn't know because like he got gassed in the third. Like by the third round, he was gassed. So either he wasn't used to the weight that he had or the weight he was carrying, or he didn't train when right. He just bulked up without learning how to move with it. But either way it go, he's not skilled at fighting. He's not a naturally good fighter. He's a naturally hard hitter, but he's not a naturally good fighter. Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you what's the problem with that. When you meet somebody that can take your full force of your punch, even though you're a hard hitter, and still get back up with it, that's what I knew about Fury. That he could take Wilder's hardest punch straight to the head and still get back up within the 10 seconds. I already knew that. He knew that two fights ago. He knew that in the first fight. So all his power was taken from him. The only thing that kind of threw you off is when they kept saying that his punch had increased by 250%. If that was true, then Fury probably had to, feel it, see if it's the truth. And the reason why you kind of knew it wasn't the truth because just because you can hit hard, can you move? And we already know he's just not naturally graceful. He's not a good fighter. That's just what it is. I'm from Alabama too. Tuskegee to be exact. I'm from Alabama. But I'm sorry. Like, he thinks love is people standing by you even though they know you can't win. That's stupidity. That is not love. Love tell the truth. But this is the idea of the world's type of love. That when you love a person, that you stick with them regardless of them being right, them being wrong. That's that homosexual thing, all that other stuff that's contrary to the word of God. And then I'm going to tell you the main thing that really let me know that Fury is going to beat him. Fury stood on guard the whole time. There's a lot of things that Fury do that I'll probably be like, if you godly, some of the stuff you kind of got to like filter communication. The Bible speak against it. If it don't edify God, you need to let it go. Those are the type of things I think Fury need to work on. I understand this is for sports, but my thing is I never go against God. Whatever God say do, and that's reading the scriptures, reading the word of God. Whatever God say do in that book, that's what we supposed to be doing, regardless of how we feel about it or and that's one of the main things that I have an issue with, the filter communication. I think you could have said what you had to say about the man without cursing, without using filter communication, because the Bible speaks against it. But other than that, much respect to Fury. He's a great fighter. Great fighter. Now I want to give people another. I want to point out another misconception in fighting. What people fail to see, I grew up training dogs, and that's kind of what I learned, or why I learned how to train myself from training dogs. I breed pit bulls, Back in the day, everybody know the situation with pit bulls and how they was. I would just condition dogs. I would teach people how to condition dogs for hunts, for being able to protect you. If you like, my view of training my dogs was, if my dogs have to fight another wolf or another dog while we out on a hunt, I wanted to be able to protect me and be able to take down an animal that's larger, stronger than it. And I knew when it comes to animals, that's wind. You got to put a lot of wind in them. You got to put strength in them. But this, I'm going to tell you the misconception I'm talking about. People always think that these people that have a lot of fat on their body going to lose. When you dealing with endurance, people got to understand how the human body works. Fat is fuel for the human body. If you are 100% lean and you're fighting a 12-round fight after you've been training and practicing, that's why Fury made a great point. If you already, if you're a natural fighter like him, it don't make no sense to train that long, because all you're gonna do is fatigue your body. Your body got to be fresh and ready to fight when you're fighting. But you got a lot of these really amped up, really muscular, high mass, high muscle mass people going out doing all this extra training, and then you're gonna get in the ring and fight 12 rounds. That does not make sense, because your body, what fuels your body is fat. And if your body already don't hold a lot of fat, you shouldn't be doing that much training, because you're gonna burn out. And you saw that by the third round, he was fatigued to the point that I didn't know if he was faking or if it was a ploy, because I knew he couldn't beat him strategy wise. He couldn't beat him skill wise, because Deontay Wilder does not have, he's not a skilled fighter. He's a hard hitter, but he's not a skilled fighter at all, by no means. Period. And people, like I said, when you get hit and you get tired, you revert back to what you know. And if you automatically, you're a natural good fighter, then when you get tired, you're going to revert back to being a naturally good fighter. You're going to know how to move your finger. I'm going to tell you, I watch MMA. Vanderlei Spider Silva, I forget his name, but he was a Brazilian fighter. He was a naturally good fighter. He didn't have to do all that training now, because his body is just, his mind and body are connected to the point that his reaction time is impeccable. And that's what Fury has. He's a great fighter, especially to be the weight he is. At 270 pounds, that's unheard of for a person to be that agile in fighting. But that's because his brain and his body are connected. His response time, it would be like, I do comic books. It would be like Spider-Man's naturally good reflexes. You see what I'm saying? As the Spider-Man, and that's kind of how he was and how Spider Silva was in the ring. They just that timing. When they the reaction time between their brain and their body is impeccable. It's a gift. It's skilled. It's natural. When you dealing with somebody like that, you have to either be natural. You got to have a game plan, and you saw based on that fight, his game plan. The only way I think he would have won, if he would have been doing what I thought he would have been doing, and that's faking like he was tired, let what's-the-name get confident and come in on him and stick him with that hard what's-the-name. But the problem is, he had already took his punch the other two fights, and he knew he could get up within them 10 seconds. So I knew how that fight was going to end completely. And like I said, let me go back to the fat on the body. That's why you had that Ortiz and Joshua fight. Everybody thought, because Joshua was so in shape and Ortiz was fat, that he was gonna know. And you dealing with a long. Then you notice that dude never got tired. And if you looked at his other fights, even though he's a big guy, he never got tired. You know why? Because his body, he naturally know how to move with a body like that. That body fuels the muscle. All you got to do is put wind on you when you that big and let your body do the rest. But when you're dealing with somebody like Anthony Joshua, they not really skilled fighters. What they do is they train themselves to be skilled fighters. And when you train yourself to be skilled fighters, it's a little different. You can be great, but you can never be great as a person that's already skilled at it, who trains hard. And when I say train hard, who train hard but smart, meaning don't overtrain and don't undertrain, but train just the right amount. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. People need to stop having this misconception that when these people are so ripped and physically fit that they could go long distance fighting 12 rounds. You cannot do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fighter. I've always been a good fighter. I've always been a skilled fighter. The thing is, I've always carried weight, especially in the back, just like Tyson Fury, that back fat. but I know how to move with that back fat. Anybody that went to school with me would tell you when I got to fighting, I was great. People thought I was in boxing. I was so good, and it's because of my reaction time. Plus, my body was geared to burn energy. It's sort of like a locomotive. You got that big rail car coal, and you steady feed. Even though the train is heavy, you feeding that coal to that train. That train will go for a long distance. It may not be the strongest, most powerful, but it'll go for a long period of time. And that's how them guys are. And in a fight with 12 rounds, that's usually what you got to have. Wind. That's the key. Being able to last that long, because when that acid builds up in your body and your arms get to feeling heavy and everything, the response time, all that plays a intricate part of being a great boxer. But if you naturally know how to not use as much energy, because you don't have to keep your hands up to the side all the time. You can drop your hands and move yourself back. Because when a person has to keep their hand up to the side, it's like lifting weights. You making that acid build up in those muscles, and you making those muscles starting to get fatigued. But if you know how to relax your body and just move and let that person work themselves out, once that person get tired, you can get to tearing that person up. I think he held back. I honestly believe he could have destroyed him if he wanted to, but he probably was thinking the same thing I'm thinking, like, this might be a ploy. Let me take it carefully. Let me make sure. Let me get to the 12 round, and then I open up. Because then, I know for a fact by the end he'll be fatigued. Because you could tell better. But by the third round, he was already, but this is what I knew that fight. I'm going to tell y'all, everybody, I'm finna predict something right now when it comes to fighting. And remember, I learned all this from dog training. I got puppies on the ground now. Game dog, sold by Jesus Freak. My dogs, I'm doing something that I love to do, which is breed and train dogs. But I'm doing it in the name of Jesus. And that's one thing that set Fury apart from Wilder. Wilder grew, how you grow up a pastor's son. The grandma preaching thing is wrong. You never see that in the Bible. Women weren't made to be pastors or preachers. The Bible is examples. If you don't see an example of it in the Bible, we ain't supposed to be doing it. And a lot of times people keep doing this stuff that ain't even about. The Bible is the beginning of time all the way to the last day of time. Then everything God wants you to know is going to be in there. That's why you got to study. That's why if it ain't in there, you ain't supposed to be doing it. A lot of people just doing stuff based off something told them. Like it ain't other spirits in the world. The Bible said be careful of what spirits you entertain. Make sure they from God. This situation where God sent down spirits to fool people, and people don't understand it. Just because a spirit is telling you that this is something you're supposed to do, if it goes against what the Bible says, if it's not in the Bible, there's no example of it in the Bible, you shouldn't be doing it. But like I said, Game Dog Sold by Jesus Freak. I'm doing something I love. I learned all what I know about fighting from dealing with dogs. Learning how to train them when you go out on them hunt. And you see these dogs fighting boars 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times larger than them. You notice it ain't about the strength of the boar, it's about the duration. Them boars can go for a certain amount of time, but they strong, knocking you around. But if that dog can last that whole time, that dog can get that boar. He gonna bring that boy down. Whatever you was like. If a wolf or another animal come out there, you know for a fact your animal. If you train your animal right, don't overtrain your dog. Cause a lot of people just do that. They had them dogs on treadmill running 3, 4 hours straight, and they already lean muscle. That does not make sense. The dog gotta have fat on him. You gotta feed the dog. Like I'm telling you, man. I'm gonna tell y'all the fight that you need to be waiting for. The fight between Ortiz and the Gypsy King. That's going to be the fight of the century. I guarantee you. That's going to be the fight of the century. Now, I'm going to tell you the only problem is I seen a couple of pictures of him. He looked like he got too lean. If I was him, I would come back. I would go back and get the fat. Don't get too Don't get too lean. Don't get too lean. It takes fat to fuel muscle. If you don't have fat, how you gonna last the distance? All right, Jesus Freak out.